Hi and welcome to my PlayHouse, and today I have a shameless self-promoting video for you where I'm gonna do something that I don't do very often. I'm gonna try and sell you something personally because yeah, I have come across some stuff that I think you might be interested in. I'm hoping. So let's get right to it, shall we? So I have a network card here, and I have scratched myself on it, so I'm bleeding somewhere. It's a bonus on this one. You might not know, but I actually have a tiny little store on the internet where I try to sell some of my old crap, and some of the better crap as well. And I'm trying to sell some of these cards on that site, my PlayHouse store. Links will be in the description. So I have come across a good handful of these, and this is it's a Marvell quick link, and link with a Q, and the model number of this one is right on the other side. It's right here. It's the QL41232, and then there are some HLCULN thingy, not that important. It's the QL41232 that is the important, and this is a network card, but it's a little bit more powerful than we're used to. So it has these two SFP ports here, right there, and these are not SFP, and they're not SFP plus. These are SFP28, and this means that this network card can do 10 gigabit and 25 gigabit. So it's a dual port 25 gigabit network card, so it can do 50 gigabits combined in total, which is pretty awesome. And as I said, it's made by Marvell, and I'm sure it's designed by Iron Man and produced by Hulk. So yeah, it's the best you can get, and it's all available in my store. And I think I'm gonna charge about 100 euros for this card if you want one of these. So it does have a limitation though. The reason why I have got my hands on this is because this card is not supported by VMware EXI 8.0 and forward, at least not to start with. I don't know if they might have changed the whatever afterwards, but it works very well in ESX 6.7 and in ESX 7.0 and all the 7 series. But as soon as we hit ESX 8, the drivers weren't there anymore, and it wasn't supported in the 8.0. So I'm sure you can go and put the drivers in yourself. Well, I'm not actually sure, but I would expect that is possible. But it will work for a lot of other good stuff. I have installed one of these in my gaming PC. If you saw my videos from last week, I actually attended a computer party. It wasn't in the video, but when I was recording the videos, I was at a computer party, and I have one of these cards in my computer, which at the start of the computer party, I was running Windows 10, and it worked very well on Windows 10. At the end of the computer party, I had reinstalled my PC from scratch and installed Windows 11, and it also works very well in Windows 11. No issues there whatsoever. So what is special with this card? It's pretty much a normal card. It has a few limitations. There's this one is like the little brother. It's top of the line of the performance. They do have one with 4 ports. How do I make 4 ports? Never mind. Which is of course a little bit bigger, but there's 2 versions of this with 2 ports and 10/25 gigabits, and this one is the little brother, and it has 2 main limitations, which should be that this one does not do. I have printed the documentation for this thing to find out what good it will do, and the card we're looking at is here, except it's not the real card, because this one is supposed to be an OCP 3.0, and OCP is one of those cards to put inside of the server. Like that's OCP card, and those up here are PCI Express cards. So the one that I have here is a PCI Express card, but in the documentation it's an OCP card. And the only thing that this one doesn't do that the big brother, which is over here, does is FCOE offload and iSCSI offload. I'm expecting that means that the card will not do it by itself. It will transfer those tasks to the CPU. And it's only that big brother that actually does it. And then this card over here, which is a 4-port card, also have the iSCSI offload thing. But yeah, I don't think it's something that regular people, most people will use for anything. So we can also see that it's compatible with 1 gigabit, 10 gigabit and 25 gigabit. I don't know if anyone would put 1 gigabit in here, but it could be if you, for example, wanted to run one of these. As this card only has SFPs, you would need something like this to make the SFP work with an RJ45 copper connection. This is a 1 gigabit and it works with 10, 100 and 1000 megabits. So you could pop that in, and I've actually I use one of these, or I did. I have a server that has 2 connections just like this, and I have my router going into this port. Router comes in 1 gigabit from the internet, and it goes into the card, and a virtual pfSense takes the port and it firewalls it and it routes it, and it comes out on another port. Like this one is a 25 gigabit, so I can have 25 gigabits connected to the network, but I would have this 1 gigabit coming in. I do see internet connections beginning to come with more than 1 gigabit now, but they are still rare. I also have one that connects with a 10 gigabit connection, this one. So that's a 10 gigabit copper connection. That also usually works, so you can connect that and you have 10 gigabit coming in, and this is compatible with other speeds than 10 gigabits. So these are rather expensive, I must admit, but very regularly you would be using an SFP28 like this, and it's called an SFP28 when it's more than 10 gigabits. So a 10 gigabit is an SFP plus, and an SFP28 is when it's more than 10 gigabits. So if you have a fiber channel card and it's 16 gigabits, well, that is also an SFP28. You don't have to use fiber optic for this. There is also DAC cables available, and these are from, not sponsored. I would really love to be affiliated with, but I have to pay full price like anyone else. So this one is a 10 gigabit DAC cable, and the benefit of that is that there's nothing that can break. More or less, you have a cable, it works or it doesn't work, and most of the time, by far, it works very nicely. But if you have a fiber optic cable, you have the fiber optic cable, and it has its connections here, and you have the little fiber optic things, and to be quite honest, they're quite fragile, so you want to keep this clean, and you need to put the caps on, and if you get it dirty, you need to clean the ends of it, because a tiny little piece of dirt here will actually make the SFP heat up, because then there is not coming the amount of light through that it needs, and then it will try and pump some more light laser through, and this will heat up, and it's like there's 2 connections here, there's 2 connections here, that connects with 2 connections here and here, so there is a whole bunch. There's more like 4 connections here that can fail on you and have bad connections and stuff, and you don't get that with a DAC cable. DAC cables with 25 gigabits are also available. I have one of them here, my own personal purchase. This is a It's a 50 euro-ish cable that I purchased for my computer party. So that will, it's 3 meters and it's a 25 gigabit DAC cable, and it worked very well. I connected to a switch at the computer party and I was able to transfer big files at a speed of 1.5 gigabytes per second. And that wasn't the card that was setting the limit there. That was first I experienced that I couldn't transfer faster than about 600 megabytes per second, and that turned out to be my SSD. That was the limit then. So the SSD couldn't store the data fast enough, so the card, it didn't matter that it was 25 gigabits and can approximately do, like, I don't know how much it can actually do, probably 2.5 gigabytes per second, because the SSD wasn't fast enough to take in the data. Then on my gaming PC, I made a RAM drive. I was so lucky that I had 64 gigabytes of memory on that, and I made a 24 RAM drive on it. So the RAM drive was very quickly, so I was able to transfer those 1.5 gigabytes per second from my cousin's PC, which also had a 25 gigabyte card installed, but then it was his drive that was the limit, so he could push data over to me with about 1.5 gigabytes per second, and I could receive that. So yeah, I didn't get to test the limit because we didn't have the equipment to actually make the card the bottleneck. So yeah, I'm sure other people has that, so they can test that. Also, there's another possibility available. This one is from Cisco, and it's a AOC cable. It just means that the SFP and the cable doesn't really come apart. It's kind of like the DAC cable, but yeah, it's a cable that is one thing, where this thing can be taken apart. You can replace this cable, make it longer, make it shorter. You can buy other SFPs to alter the speed or the technology of that, where this one you can't. This one is a 10 gigabit Cisco one, so probably worth an arm and a leg. So the two limitations that are talked about here with the offloading of FCOE, fiber channel over Ethernet, and iSCSI offloading doesn't mean that the system doesn't do it. It just can't offload it to the CPU. So it does it in software on the operating system, but where the big brother is able to tell the operating system, I can handle this. You don't have to use CPU cycles on it. Well, the little brother isn't able to do that. So the system can still do the work, it just has to use the CPU for it. So another thing that this card does is something called NPAR. It's up here, NPAR technology. I've done a whole video on this, but to try and sell this card, I need to tell you about it again. So this card has 2 ports that comes out here, but what it's able to do, let's get a piece of paper and we're gonna draw our port. We're gonna draw our card here. We have our card. Oh, we have some power lanes and stuff here. It looks about this way, right? Oh, shit, I'm good at this. So port 1 and port 2. So we can connect that to 2 different things. That is marvelous. But inside with NPAR, oh, I can write that. It can act like a switch, and it's not just a little switch. It can take each of these ports and it can make like that we have a 16 port switch inside. So a 16 port switch that is connected to one of them, and then there's another 16 port switch that is connected to the other one, and then that 16 port switch, I'm just gonna draw that's as if it's a virtual switch, but it's on the hardware of the network card. So the network card here has built in two switches with two uplinks, one uplink for each of them, and this switch goes into the operating system. So we have our OS down here, no matter what that is, but we can have our card here present the OS with 16 ports. 16 port from one and 16 port from the other. I'm actually a little bit curious. I'm not entirely sure if it's 16 ports from each of them when there's two ports, or if the processor here is able to make 16 ports overall. So if you have one port, you get 16 ports, and if you have two ports, you have 16 ports. I'm not entirely sure about that. I need to read more to figure that out. But nevertheless, you get a lot of internal ports. So you could have VMs here. VMs. You could have a lot of those. And you could get them each a port on the virtual switch. I don't know why you would want to do that, but that would be an option. Then you would have to divide it out over here, or maybe you just don't want them to see each other in the network. So you could kind of physically forward a network connection to the VM through the operating system that is being managed by the card. So the operating system and the CPU, we have that over. It has a lot of legs, and CPU. And that wouldn't have to do as much because that part of the work is now being operated by the network card up here. And it doesn't have the quickest CPU, but it's specialized to do exactly that. So you could offload CPU cycles by having a physical port to the VMs. And that's one use case for it. You could also have different networks in your card, and with the management software to your card, you can actually also do some of that management and tell that, well, this connection is limited in some way or has some restrictions. You can guarantee some speed for it. So if everything is very busy, well, that one has priority with that amount of throughput. Quality of service, I believe it's called, but you can do that. Quality of service in the network card, it can become very complicated, but it has the possibility of doing a lot of complicated stuff up there with the NPAR. By the way, that's a really disgusting R. We're gonna fix that. Much better. So that was a little bit about this little card that I'm trying to sell you. It's in the link in the description of my little store. Marvell, which is of course designed by Iron Man and produced by Hulk, has like 10 pages of bragging about this, and as I'm the one trying to sell it, it's all true. But to be quite honest, 99.765% of this you will never need. You just need the speed. 25 gigabits per second is awesome if you have something to connect it to. So yeah, you have to remember that as well. You need something to connect it to, otherwise it's not much fun. My store is open. I do want to let you know that the actual shipping price is first shown to you on my store when it knows where to ship it to. Until then, it shows you worst case. So if you go in and you put this thing in your basket and you see the shipping price is ridiculously, that's because that's the shipping price to the middle of Africa. When you put in that you're in Germany, it goes down dramatically, or Sweden or Norway, or well, Norway is actually pretty bad. They're just outside. Never mind, the price does go down. It's worst case until it knows your country address thing. So yeah, but I do hope that you will go and visit my store, and if you're not interested in this card at all, Do check out if there is anything else that I can help you with, please. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Do subscribe to my channel so you can see me again, and have a really nice day. Bye bye, and the shopping channel out.